Welcome to the Ohms Property Podcast, your go-to guide for navigating the world of property investing. I'm your host, and in every episode, I sit down with property investors, developers, and top industry experts to share their insights, strategies, and inspiring stories. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just getting started, join us as we explore all aspects of building wealth through property. Welcome to another episode of Ohms Property Podcast. This is about doing real conversations with real property professionals. And today I'm privileged to be joined with another award-winning property developer, Charlie Parks. Charlie, how you doing?
Hi, Omar. Yeah, it's really nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming in. The purpose of these podcasts really is just to have a chat between friends. We've known each other for quite some time now. I was thinking back to when we first met, actually, and I know we were part of a group all about auctions, is where we first got to know each other. And ever since then, we've sort of connected in terms of doing similar things, both like the HMO space a little bit, both into property development. And there's been a few occasions where I've kind of picked your brains on things, and then you've picked mine as well. So I just thought it'd be really good to get you into the studio and just have a real conversation between the two of us. Yeah. So the audience can get to know you a little bit. And likewise, we can share kind of what we're up to as well. Yeah. So I hope that's okay.
Yeah, lovely.
Amazing.
I think it's just so nice because it's always so genuine between us, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Perfect. So let's kick it off then. If you could just give us a brief intro to who you are and what you do, essentially.
Yeah. So Charlie Parks, and my company is Boutique Property, and I'm not a big developer. I've done some commercial to resi. I do HMOs. I won the Property Investor Awards for the sui generis HMO. Thank you very much. I was so happy with that. And I'm going on to do a few more deals this year. So not massive. Starting out, hoping to grow this year. Looking forward to talking about it from that kind of level.
Yeah, amazing. That's fantastic. So one of the things I always think about when I think about you is your ability to raise private finance. I know some property investors have never been able to raise private finance. Some of them may have side businesses, and then they kind of use the funds that they make in those side businesses to invest in property. Others just leverage sort of first charge debt from lenders quite well and have kind of keep recycling. But I don't know why, I've always thought of you as someone who's just had this ability to get private finance, but not sort of from here, there and everywhere, just a very select way of sort of dealing with some high net worth individuals, I think.
And that is really interesting because, as you know, I kind of wasn't at all part of like the property networking scene and stuff like that. So all I knew is the way that I'd done it. And yes, I raised my first deal, which was a commercial to 9 little studio room sui generis HMO, was generated with a private investor, and I didn't have any money of my own anyway. I didn't have any way of generating funds or at the time, so that was just the only option that I had. And then he introduced me to another friend of his. But it's interesting because the 2 deals I'm doing at the moment, I'm using bank lending, and I am putting a charge on my house. And it's I guess from the outside it could almost be seen that I'm going backwards, but it rests heavy on me taking other people's money. It rests. That is not for the faint-hearted at all, and nobody's ever going to lose money with me. That's obviously that's where you need to take it from. And my private investor that I did the JV on the award-winning HMO, he had an issue in his business, and somebody went bankrupt underneath him. So he kind of stepped out. He was directed elsewhere. So yeah, I've just gone, okay, I'm going to get a bridge. I'm going to do it myself. And actually looked at it as an opportunity of going, okay, I am honing my craft on these two so tightly because, obviously it is, I'm not saying that this rests any easier than the private investment, but yeah, I'm happy to do both.
Yeah, sure. Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to introduce a sponsor of the channel. Trinity Finance is a directly authorised FCA regulated mortgage brokerage. Founded in 2015 with over 30 mortgage brokers, we're really well placed to help you with all your property finance needs. Starting with first-time buyers and those moving home, we also help people remortgaging residential and buy-to-let property. Alongside that, we specialise in ground-up development, commercial lending, HMO funding, mezzanine, auction, and also your traditional buy-to-let. If that's of interest, get in contact with us via email at info@trinityfinance.co.uk, or you can give us a ring on 01322 907 000, and we look forward to hearing from you. Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's good to have different options rather than all your eggs in one basket with one high net worth individual who lends money and then perhaps his circumstances change.
Exactly that.
And it becomes tricky, doesn't it?
Exactly that. And actually, from my perspective, I was thinking, do you know what? For my relationship with my high net worth, it's a very strong position to say, okay, you've not been able to do that. Don't worry about it. I've done these two.
Yeah. And you're demonstrating, you've got options.
Totally.
Charlie, can I talk to you about being a property developer? Now, I thought this was something maybe worth discussing with you, but when I first got started in property, I used to think if someone said, this person's a property developer, my sort of impression was someone driving around in a Range Rover.
100%. That's so funny. That's what I would think as well.
Perhaps they just knocked down a bungalow and built 9 flats on a corner plot, and made £1 million, sat in the bank, and they were off on holiday all the time. Yeah. And sort of had loads of money. That was my impression of a property developer. And sort of over the years of meeting and talking to lots of property developers, you sort of get to experience all the different types of property developers. So and there's, people starting off converting a 1-bed flat into a 2-bed flat, or just converting a house into a small HMO, and then some developers who are perhaps doing large mixed-use ground-up development schemes. And so there's kind of like it's a very wide terminology to say I'm a property developer. And I think the consensus for a lot of people is that we're all cash rich and loads of money in the bank.
Yes.
So what's your take on, what is it to be a property developer?
Yeah, it's really interesting because we were talking about this just a little bit before we started, wasn't it? And I said for me, I just think this. I don't do Instagram. I don't advertise anywhere or promotion. And I just think this. If you were starting out, you would think that you were a failure if you'd not made 250 grand on your first project, if you weren't netting 3 grand clear on your first HMO. And I just don't think it's true.
Yeah.
And I think having an attitude that so I've got 2 commercial properties. I've got like 19 units, 20 if you say I've just got a flat as well. And then there's another 8 that are going in this other HMO. So you'd be thinking, I'm absolutely like swimming around with money. It's just not the case. Yeah. I mean, I look great on a balance sheet. Yeah. But the cash flow is hard to build up, and it really takes time.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the only other thing I was going to just add to what you're saying is I almost would say not having money in the bank probably makes you a better property developer.
I agree.
Because if you're able to spin money, so you've done a deal, the money's come in, but it's back out again. It's straight in another deal. If you've got money sat in the bank, really, I mean, I'd love to have some in the bank because
I would really love to have some in the bank.
It seems to be the opposite for quite a while at the moment. But So it's really interesting, isn't it? The kind of perception of what a property developer is versus reality. But.
And swanning around in the range and drinking champagne and stuff. It's just, I don't know. I think if that's the optic that you've got, you're probably not doing it right. And for those people who, you know, who have that kind of visual, it's just not the way.
Yeah.
You know, it's I mean at the moment I mean I used to do some consultancy work to supplement my property income, and this year will be the first year with these next 2 developments that I'm doing that I'll probably be able to live comfortably. I mean, assuming I don't mess them up. But let's assume they go well. That I'll be living comfortably from my property investments, and that's taken a while.
Absolutely, yeah. So, what are you working on right now? Then tell us about. You don't have to go into the intricacies of the deals, but give us a sort of a flavour of what you're trying to put together.
So I really like the last one I did. Social. I did. A registered provider, and I did a lease to a registered provider, and I love that because what do we not like? We don't like managing tenants. So that was just a dream come true for me. And we'll wait and see what happens. But I'm actually going to complete on my first project, which will be just a 4-bed house into an 8-bed HMO on the 14th of March, and then I'm actually completing on my second project, which will be a 5-bed house into a 9-bed HMO on the 20th of March. So I've got 2 projects running concurrently. It'll be the first time that I'm going to run 2 projects. I've got different build teams, so I'm seeing this. And interestingly, it'll be the first time that I've converted houses, because I've always done office to resi previously. And it's not necessarily that much easier. My last one, I did a lawful development certificate, so I completely circumnavigated the change of use into sui generis.
I see, yeah.
All of the building regs up spec I didn't need to do. It made it fast, it made it cheap. These 2, not the case at all. So full building regs change.
Yeah.
And I've just put an offer in on another one that I'm hopefully doing vendor finance for.
Wow.
So that would be another 8-bed. And then I've seen another one. I'd really like to do 4 this year.
Oh, wow, that'd be amazing. Yeah,
we'll see.
We tend to spin a lot of plates, don't we, when we're in property? You never just sort of do one and then. But I think if you're sort of trying to grow a property portfolio and get to the point where you can never be passive, I don't think. But if you can get to the point where income comes in and replaces your main consulting job, then you do need to sometimes think larger and bigger than perhaps you had before.
Yeah.
So for anyone who's watching this that perhaps is like trying to get started off in property development, or property investing, maybe another way of putting it, you're clearly looking at the HMO space as the kind of end goal to hold property. Would that be right?
Yeah, totally. I'd like to do a flip. I think it'll be a good year to do a flip this year. I did intend to do a flip last year, but then kept it because it kind of did a bit too well. So,
I see, yeah.
But,
okay. So what would be the reason to do the flip? What's the main reason to do that?
Just to actually sell something rather than refinance it, because as you know, when you've built the equity in, but you on the refinancing, you're only going up to 75%. So you've got that equity, but you're not realising the full amount that you've made on the project. So just to get some more funding to be able to reinvest, basically.
Yeah, makes total sense. So so like if you're brand new, then I've done some HMOs, as you know. I've looked at some of your HMOs. Clearly, if you're serious about property, you'll understand all the reasons why buy-to-let is kind of almost impossible to make work, right?
So difficult.
We just got legislation constantly, anti-landlord legislation that's just been affecting that sector. And I feel like there's quite a big movement towards people going into HMO. What was quite interesting, actually, I heard a talk from quite a well-known HMO developer, and he gave some stats about how the perception is that we are flooding the market with HMO rooms as developers. But actually, the real stats are that there are more HMO landlords selling HMOs, which are then being converted back into family homes, than are actually entering the market. And I thought that was really interesting because, once you've done a few and then you sort of start to see things on Spare Room and how saturated perhaps certain areas are, which definitely need Article 4. And then you sort of think, is this a viable thing to keep doing HMO? So like for the new property investors, do you think HMOs are still like a good strategy for them to do, or what would your advice be on that?
I really think they are, but it was interesting because after I'd done a talk, and then I'd done the National Development Summit as well, and this young investor came over to me, and he was talking about doing a HMO in Ealing. Well, Ealing's got Article 4.
Yeah.
And he didn't understand what was going to be involved. And actually he was actually going to be using somebody else's money.
Oh, right.
So I just think really focus on the area, do your research. I think people see the visuals on Instagram and think it's quick, and it's not quick.
No.
It isn't quick. You've got to research it. You've got to know what your room rents are. You've got to know what the competition is. In the areas that I'm working in, there's quite a lot of older stock and poor quality stock. So these HMOs that I'm going to do, actually, I'm in direct conversations with the council to let them directly, which would be fantastic. However, I will do them to a professional standard, and they'll be done. So if I choose to let them to privately, I mean, I don't want to. That would be my last option, but that I could. I think HMOs are fantastic, but I just think, like anything, it's a really serious business decision, and it's an investment that needs time and thought and consideration, and looking at just doing a C3 to C4 obviously is a perfect starting point. Yeah, we know this.
Yeah, so non-Article 4 area, C3 to C4.
Yeah.
Low level of risk in that.
Low level of risk.
Still, you've got to know what you're doing, right? Because you've got certificate of lawfulness, you've got the conversion, you've got the refinance if you're going to keep it, and HMO licensing. But it's not the same as doing planning, sui generis, lots of building regs, in an Article 4 area where someone should really know what they're doing before they get stuck into that.
But it's interesting though, because I was looking at, so I've as I said, I've never bought houses before. These two houses that I've bought, and this next one that I'll hopefully agree in the next month or so. They've just been sitting on the market, and I just kind of thought, because I was looking at auctions, I was trying to buy stock in auctions, and I was looking at like ex-housing association stuff, and I just kept being outbid. But these sites, I'm like, where are the other HMO developers? Because they just scream to me. I mean, that they really, really work well, even as houses. So, I think that there's not potentially as much competition as when you're in the market and you're looking at it the whole time.
You've got the developer's eye. So, if you're in property, you can sit with someone else who's in property and just talk for hours all about property. But if you're not in property at all, and then someone starts talking to you about property, you just switch off straight away. And there's this thing called the developer's eye, which is where you'll look at something and you can see the end goal and the perspective of it, whereas someone else completely misses that. And some people, that's just in them. They'll go on Rightmove and think, that's a 6-bed HMO, that's a building plot on a corner, that's a commercial to resi conversion. They can see how to put things together. And I've always thought that about you. You can see things differently, which adds a lot of an advantage when investing if you can see things that other people miss.
Yeah, these two that I'm buying also have planning gains. So one of them has. It was really interesting when I was shown around. My favourite one. They were talking about the rundown house in the garden garage. I'm going to call it a house, because it'll be a house. And you know that really put people off. It's got separate access. It's got its own access. The garden's long enough. You can cut it in half. That's called a building plot. Is what that is. Yeah. So don't worry about that.
But sometimes information that's kept to yourself and in your head is better than kind of telling anyone, because you tell an agent, look, that's a building plot there, and then all of a sudden they're trying to sell it for more money than.
Yeah. I mean, as if you would ever.
No, absolutely.
As if you would ever. I can get over that. That's fine.
So I've got some questions for you then. So we've talked briefly about auctions. Now you obviously delved into auctions a fair bit and tried to learn more about that market as a way, or not as a strategy, but as a way of trying to get yourself good property deals to develop and hold and sell and things like that. Do you think that auctions are a place that a new property investor should start looking for properties, or would you say it's something you need to learn more about before you get stuck into auctions?
I mean, you absolutely have to. I mean, I obviously wasn't a newbie when I started, but I joined the Auction Buyers Club. Yeah. And Jay and Piot were absolutely just instrumental in supporting my decision making, because there's a lot of hurdles. And there's a lot of traded stock. There's stuff that so you absolutely can't be a newbie unless you're going to be a newbie who's going to treat it like you're going to hone your craft there and make sure that you're reading the legal pack. I mean, how many people don't read the legal pack and they bid at auction? It's absolutely insane. So I bought. It's interesting because I bought the award-winning HMO in an auction, and I absolutely loved it. I loved it so much, and I'd entirely convinced myself that it was going to go for mega money. Everybody else could see the land assembly. Everybody else could see this. It was good, and it didn't. It was like it went straight for amazing money. But then I have been outbid on so many things. So you've got to be prepared to wait for those deals. And I think in auction as well, you can get taken away in the moment.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned the Auction Buyers Club. I'm always really wary of promoting other property education, because there is...
Yes, I apologise.
No, it's okay, because there is so much out there which I see and know that it's not good value for money. Yeah. And that's probably me being the politest I can about the property education sector. Yeah. That being said, I think there is some amazing education from people that really do know what they're talking about. And so I was one of the founding members of the Auction Buyers Club when it first started, and I think I just attended one of their workshops, like, I don't remember, this is a long time ago now. And I sort of was just blown away by the underworld of auctions and how it works. So for anyone, again, who's watching this that I think wants to take that seriously, I do quite like the Auction Buyers Club as an entry level to learn.
Totally.
So I'll put a link to the Auction Buyers Club in the description, and they can chat with Jay and Piot, who I'm sure... they're quite selective on who they take in. And I think that's good, actually. Yeah. But it's certainly a good starting place if you're looking to trade property at auction, buy well at auction, or just understand.
Trading at auction is so difficult.
It's really difficult, isn't it? Yeah.
So difficult.
And stressful. I mean, I was trading for a while, and I can tell you now, the hairline was just going back and back as I was, because it's sleepless nights.
Yeah.
It's like flipping, but intensified to a level beyond belief, where money can come in really quickly, but the stress levels are just, it's not for the faint-hearted. No, but I think if you're an auction trader, you're sharp. You really need to be sharp to know what you're doing, and that makes you a better buyer. So just taking auction trading and then moving into investing in property, I think is a great skill to start with.
That's really interesting. Do you think you could auction trade before you went into I think that auction trading is higher up, way higher up the ladder.
I think if
you have to really know what you're doing, and and the competition is so fierce.
Yeah, absolutely.
Out there,
you can make a lot of mistakes, can't you? And lose so much money.
I would absolutely deter people from that.
Yeah, for sure. Charlie, what was the first thing you ever did in property?
First thing I ever did was just buy my own flat. I bought my own flat. It was just an utter wreck, And I worked in national press. I worked at the Mirror, and was bonus driven. So every time I got a bonus, I did it up, and then it made really, really good money. And then I kept it, and then I bought another wreck, but like a really fantastic house in London. And again, it was terrible, but did it, and just built up like that.
Yeah, classic that one, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
lost it all when I got divorced, but then you start again.
Yeah, well, that's part of property investing, isn't it? Is it's trying to go up the ladder and you tend to find a lot of developers will make money out of their own residential house. It's quite a tax efficient thing to do.
It really is. Yeah. And I built my own house, and I'm in that quandary at the moment where I obviously know that the best thing to do would be for me to sell my house and do another one. But I just really like it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm exactly the same.
I really like it.
If you watch some of the education about property, there's some people that say you should never own your own home.
I know this.
And I think, well, I want some stability and I want to know like where I live, and I want to be able to decorate my house if I want to. So, which is an interesting concept. And if you think like, we don't sort of have long-term rentals in the UK. In a lot of the European countries, they take like 5-year leases on houses. So they make them feel like they're their own home. There isn't this huge culture of you've got to own your own house. In the UK, it's sort of like everyone wants to own their own house because they want to feel stable and that they can live there for a long period of time rather than keep getting chucked out by their landlord. So
I think for me, I had just ridiculous amounts of equity in my house, so that's why, which is a good thing. However, I wasn't using it in my business, but I've solved that problem by taking a bridge and putting my house against it, so it's being used in the business. So I'm kind of good. I'm kind of good with that decision. Analysing
it on the spreadsheet and thinking, look how much equity I've got here. I could do another deal with all of that equity.
and also if say property goes up 5%, well 5% on the amount of my residential is really good. So you'd have to you'd have to do quite a good flip, and the time it takes you're coming out of your business. I'm happy to focus on the HMO growth.
Amazing. Okay, I've got a few more questions for you.
Go for it.
So what if you had to go back and start this again, would you do anything differently than what you're already doing?
Yeah, I really would. It's interesting because I think about this, and I think I'd have been bolder. And that's what I'm trying to kind of like, I feel like I'm making up for a bit of time where I've been not really believed in myself. And it's interesting because the Property Investor Awards, it was great to kind of put something out there that I did and know that it was the best in that year. And it's really given me that confidence.
And you can put it on your email signature as well.
I do. I've literally got it on my email signature. It's so funny because I kind of was like, should I do that? Are people going to think I'm just such an idiot?
No, I don't think so at all. I think there's not enough recognition for property people to say, that you've achieved something. And winning an award at the Property Investors Award is no joke at all. I mean, like, I've just looked at the application form process, and you need like 2 weeks off work just to fill it in and get it all. So, and you look at the judges, then they're all sophisticated people that have been around for a long time. The awards are taken seriously. So I think you should showcase that you've won that award, for sure.
But that's really helped my confidence. And also where earlier on, getting good people around you, meeting Jay, meeting Payot, meeting Helen Chorley, meeting Jess from the property from Pip, just people that you kind of know. I mean, I could go on and on, but people that you know that are really decent people who are gonna give you solid advice. But there's a lot of sharks out there. So I think quite early on in my career, I touched a few sharks and then just absolutely went back into my cave. But just choose really carefully who you're surrounding yourself with, and I think that just elevates you. But you've got to have a good guide of who the good ones are, because there's a lot of absolute scumbags out there. We know this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it seems like every other week there's something coming out about things that have gone on, or how people have not necessarily committed fraud, but have just sort of stolen someone's money and not paid it back and all this sort of stuff. So the property industry can be a bit like that, can't it? And some of the education is, like you said,
very questionable.
Yeah. But so again, thinking back to when you first got started in property, there's lots of free education as well, isn't there, online?
And that's what I did. I mean, genuinely, that's what I did. There's so much great education. I mean, your YouTube is fantastic, and
Thank you. Yeah.
and I think it really kind of does give value, rather than just talking about. It's specifically about how you do things, specifically what you need to look at. And I think if you really try and focus on what is giving value rather than just telling a story, then I think you won't go far wrong. Yeah. So I think there's a lot, and that's what I did. I just I read books. I looked at I did the free information that was online, and I learned in errors.
Yeah,
I look at my last site, and I just think, obviously you learn every time you go on, and you hone your craft, you get better.
Yeah, definitely. I think the more times you do something, you just improve what you're doing, don't you?
Yeah.
So like, if you think about people that are going to go through education, what would be your words of warning, or any red flags that they should potentially look out for if it is one of those types of companies that perhaps is not going to be good value for money? Because some of this education is £10,000-20,000.
Unbelievable.
So would there be any sort of red flags or anything you could say, look out for this?
I think if you're having any time pressure to make any decision, if there's any kind of like fake applications, I think you need to go on Companies House. Companies House is the best thing that you can look at. See what, if somebody's telling you that they're an expert. I also think if somebody is an educator, then why are they an educator? I don't want to be an educator. Don't come and ask me to be your mentor. I'm going to say no. I'm just working on my business. What you do is fantastic. It really is. I couldn't be more supportive of it. But go on Companies House. See what they've done. If you want to see some live examples, and the live examples of the sites that have been seen through to completion, because there's some sites that start. I mean, I don't really do Instagram or anything, but you'll see them advertised, and then they go terribly quiet. And if your educator is asking you as a student to invest in them, that would be a massive red flag to me. Yeah, for sure. I think that's really good advice, actually, is just doing your homework. And because I'm sure there are some that are amazing, right? And some people that genuinely get passion out of educating, and they've kind of done what they wanted to do, and perhaps go in that. I don't really do education, as you know, but I just like to kind of give free content and give back a little bit. On that, actually, so one of the things that we did last year was the HMO workshop.
where we had 6 or 7 just like who I thought were really good at the time, knowledgeable people in the HMO sector, and they just gave sort of like a 45-minute talk each. And the learning that came out of it, like even for myself, just been doing this a long time, but the learning that you get from being in a room with lots of other like-minded investors, really cheap, like just a couple of £100, and it paid, everyone got lunch, we all sat down, had lunch together. I feel like that sort of stuff
kind of stuff is absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
because you're not being signed up to some course that's going to take a year. You're not. I mean, some people literally go into debt to do these courses, and it's just don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm trying to think how I first got started. I think it was a small little house in Welling where I sort of got a business there in Kent, and it's just really run down, and somehow managed to get some money together to put down as a deposit, and then just basically renovated it on my weekends with my dad and my mum and my wife now, and we just all chipped in, and slowly, I think it took us forever to do it, 6 months probably, just to renovate a small house, because we had jobs, and then sold it and sort of made a bit of a profit, and then thought, well, this is actually okay, I could do this. Made so many mistakes doing it,
but then you learn, and it really sinks in. You know, it really does sink in. But yeah, I mean, my first one was this flat that I said, and it was just an absolute horror when I bought it, but it was beautiful when it was
absolutely
when it was finished.
So it's learning as you go, isn't it?
Just
learning on the job, trying your luck, mitigating the risks, trying to say what's the worst thing that could happen if I do this, and am I still going to have the shirt that's on my back? How can it go wrong? And then for some people it's analysis paralysis, and they can't make that decision, they procrastinate. But if they can get themselves to do it, and even if they just make a small amount of money or break even, then they can learn and get better.
Totally. And I just think kind of like really really believing in yourself. There was something on LinkedIn, and it said I'm more successful than you because I've failed more times than you've tried.
I've seen that. That's really interesting.
I loved
it's
that.
Brilliant.
Isn't that brilliant?
Yeah.
Isn't that brilliant? You're not going to do it perfectly. But also, it's interesting, there's been a few people that have approached me that were newbies, and somebody had said, oh, there's this site that I've seen in the auction. I'm not going to show you what it is, but it's this and that. Do you think I should buy it? And I'm a bit like, how are you buying it? What's your experience? What's your costing? What's this? What's that? What's that? And they literally just disappeared. No. They didn't want to have the questioning. It was like this kind of idea that they wanted to be a developer and they were just going to do it. Don't be that person. Don't be that person.
Yeah, it'll all go wrong for them, won't it? If they've not really done the sums, and because they'll pay too much, they'll spend too much, and they'll overestimate what it's going to sell for.
Of course they will.
And it'll all go wrong for them.
I mean, it's hard enough when you've spent months doing the sums, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you're looking at
and it still goes over what you wanted to spend.
Whether you're going to go with a 62.5 millimetre insulation or go up to the 80, and what that's going to cost over the square meterage of the internal walls. And
being a property developer, I feel like a lot of the time I'm a glorified secretary, organising everybody else's life and trying to get people to do the things that they should be doing. So, in
a time frame that you're desperate for them to
constantly.
Do it in.
It's like diary management, and I never thought that's what it would be, but it's essentially just overcoming challenges, constantly problem solving, thinking about how do I do that, how do I do this, that's gone wrong, how do I solve it. So do you think like there's anything that you can do to kind of get better at those skills, or would you say that's just what you learn as you go?
So I'm at the stage now, so there's this book that I'm just coming to the end of reading, and it's called Who Not How.
Okay.
And I've found this, I think anybody, again, if you're at the start of your journey, have a read, Who Not How. And it's about getting people to do tasks that you shouldn't really be doing. So I'm just about to write myself a job description for somebody to do the admin for me, because I I think I said to you, I'm doing the tender process for two projects, and I was somebody who's in a flat had seen a rat, not inside the flat, just saying, and I'm on the phone getting pest control in. I shouldn't be doing that. That's not what I should be doing. But so I'm really looking for somebody to help me with the admin, to try and take me out of that process and to distance me from the tenants, but just really scheduling time as well in your diary to try and look ahead and try and take problems out of the equation. I said to you earlier, didn't I? So my Monday morning, it's my diary note at 8:00 is what's the biggest risks of this week. What are the biggest risks? What do you need to look at? What do you need to avoid?
I think that's really valuable, actually, because if you're sort of trying to plan what things are a priority, clearly risk is the bit that you want to start with and overcome those things and then move on.
Yeah.
But how do you deal with so many tasks? I mean, just having a couple of sites in purchase, you're dealing with planning, you're dealing with architects, tendering. Like, it sounds like you need a couple of admin.
I'd be happy just with one. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because you've got to mentally, over the last week, I'm like, okay, what have I done that I don't want to do anymore? And I've been making the list, but I'm in a luxurious position at the moment that I was a single mum for years and years, and I did this whilst at the same time as being a mum to my kids. They've gone to university now,
I see, right,
so I've got this. It feels really luxurious. I need to stop waking up at 5:00 in the morning because that is irritating me. But I've got time. I've got time to work, and I've got time to focus on my business. So for me personally, at my life stage, and I guess it's before anybody who's at the life stage before you've had kids, just really use that time. That is, don't you think? When you have kids and you're going through and raising your
everything changes.
Everything changes. So do it early. Do it early when you've got that time. Don't go to the pub. Spend a bit of time on your business plan.
Absolutely. And still to try and look after yourself, your health, taking holidays and doing those things which are...
So my morning looks like waking up and exercising. Like, it's 100%, it's just staying healthy, eating well, really good mental processes, exercising, spending time with mates. You've got to have a good balance, haven't you, to be able to operate at the top of your game, really.
Definitely. Couldn't agree more. Charlie, that's been absolutely amazing. I'm sure a lot of people are going to find it inspiring to have listened to this conversation and got to know you. I'll put some contact details for you in the description in case people want to get in touch or ask you any questions personally. And you never know, you might have a coffee with some people who are, again, interested, or perhaps someone might have a site that they might be looking to sell in your area.
Yes, if anybody's got any sites, then let me know. And I guess I've never taken money from somebody that I don't know, that I haven't got to know. So if you think you might like the way that I treat my business and my investors, then feel free to get in touch. But
definitely.
it won't be quick. I'm not going to be
I'm
not going to be taking money in a month, but really happy to talk to people as potential investors as well.
Excellent. I've loved the conversation, really enjoyed it. I'd love to invite you back in about a year's time just to catch up with you and see how things are going, because I think that'd be really good for the viewers to see how things have progressed with your projects. I'd just like to wrap up with, and you've already given me a book recommendation, but I normally save it right to the end to say, can you give me a book recommendation or a podcast or a website or something that you use day to day that you think could be quite interesting? And we've also plugged the Auction Buyers Club. So in the description, I'll put Auction Buyers Club if you're kind of interested in auctions. What was the book again, just so I can put a note for the description?
The book was Who Not How.
Who Not How. I'll put a description there.
I've also got a real a real favourite book.
Yes.
That when I was, because I set up this, really went in on my business at the point of divorce, which is obviously quite a crisis point in life. And so if anybody's going through a point at the moment, I don't know, maybe you've just lost your job, or maybe something that you think is bad is happening to you. There's a book called The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. And it basically is talking about those crunch points in your life that are actually have the most opportunity. So can I recommend that book as well?
That'd be amazing.
I love that one.
I'll put a link for that as well. Amazing. Thank you so much, Charlie, for coming in, and really great talking to you, and hopefully we'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks ever so much, Omar.